Naomi Carter had carved out a quiet existence in the bustling shadows of Norfolk, Virginia, where the naval base's distant rumbles served as a constant echo of the life she'd once led. At 35, this African-American woman moved through her days with a deliberate calm, blending into the community like a well-worn page in an old book. Her work at the local Veterans Center was her anchor, supporting fellow vets through the rough seas of civilian life, teaching survival skills that went beyond the physical. "It's not just about tying knots or starting fires," she'd tell her classes, her voice rich and steady, carrying the weight of experience. "It's about rebuilding what the world tried to break inside you." The vets, many of them older men who'd seen Korea or Vietnam, nodded in quiet respect, drawn to her unassuming strength. But beneath that calm surface lay deep wounds that time hadn't fully healed. Naomi had lost her father in Iraq back in 2007 during the brutal surge. He was a proud Marine, a black man who'd risen through the ranks despite the barriers, only to be taken by an IED that left her family shattered. As a young girl in a military town, she'd worshipped him, his stories of honor and resilience fueling her own dreams. "Serve with everything you've got, baby girl," he'd written in his last letter home. "Don't let them tell you what you can't do." Inspired, she'd enlisted, but her path was fraught with discrimination. In basic training as a black woman, she faced the double sting of racism and sexism. "You think you belong here?" a white instructor had barked, his eyes narrowing as he piled on extra drills, questioning her every move. Peers whispered slurs, doubting her because of her skin and her gender, forcing her to prove herself twice over. She'd excelled, top marks in medical training, unmatched in marksmanship. But the scars remained, a constant reminder that the battlefield wasn't just overseas.
On that warm August morning in 2025, Naomi stopped at her favorite waterfront cafe, a cozy spot where the scent of fresh coffee mingled with the salty breeze from the harbor. The barista, Maria, greeted her with a familiar smile. "The usual, Naomi? Black coffee, strong as always?" Naomi nodded, paying with a crisp bill and settling into her corner table near the window. It was her ritual, positioning herself with clear views of the exits, scanning the room subtly for anything out of place. Habits die hard, especially those forged in fire. She sipped her coffee, scrolling through emails on her phone, her posture straight as a rifle barrel, her eyes alert. Few in Norfolk knew the full depth of her story. Officially, her military records painted a straightforward picture. A Navy hospital corpsman from 2008 to 2016, with deployments to Afghanistan and Syria, patching up the wounded under harsh conditions. But the truth was buried under layers of classification, a secret she'd guarded like a sacred oath. In 2010, amid escalating threats, Naomi had been selected for a covert program, an exception to policy, born of wartime necessity. As a black woman with exceptional skills, she could infiltrate areas where men couldn't, women's clinics in enemy territory, gathering intel while providing medical aid. Temporarily assigned to SEAL Team 6, she'd proven herself in direct action missions, saving lives and turning tides. Her teammates had dubbed her Ghost for her ability to slip in and out unseen, but earning that trust hadn't been easy. "Prove you're not a token," one had challenged early on, his words laced with doubt. By the end, they'd fought side by side, brothers in arms. Now, in her civilian world, Naomi channeled that resilience into helping others. Just last week at the VA hospital, visiting her old friend Jamal, who'd lost an arm in Syria, she joined a circle of vets, swapping stories. When they pressed about her service, she'd shared glimpses. "I was in the mix, pulling guys out under fire, doing what needed doing. No boasts, just truth." But as she sat in the cafe, watching passers-by, a flicker of unease stirred. Life felt stable, but fragile, like a house of cards in a gentle wind.
Then, the door swung open. 3 military police officers entered, their uniforms crisp, eyes sweeping the room until they fixed on her. Naomi's instincts flared, her body tensed, ready for whatever came next. The lead sergeant approached, his face stern. "Ma'am, we need to see some identification." Naomi met his gaze evenly. "What's this about?" "Reports of you claiming to be a Navy SEAL," he said, voice low but firm. "Stolen valor. Come with us." The cafe hushed. Maria's eyes widened in confusion, and customers murmured, their stares heavy with judgment. Naomi felt the old wounds reopen. The assumption of guilt, the weight of being a black woman under scrutiny. She stood slowly, hands visible, as they escorted her out. In that moment, her ordinary world cracked, pulling her toward a reckoning she hadn't sought. The military police vehicle pulled away from the cafe, its siren silent, but the weight of the moment heavy in the air. Naomi sat in the back, her wrists secured in loose cuffs, staring out at the familiar streets of Norfolk blurring by. The base gates loomed ahead, a threshold she hadn't crossed in years, stirring a mix of dread and defiance. How had a simple conversation at the VA led to this? Marcus Hale's name echoed in her mind, the staff sergeant who'd sat quietly in the waiting room, his eyes too sharp, too probing. "Tell us about Syria," he'd said, eyes narrowing as if testing her. At the naval station, they hustled her into a sterile interrogation room, the kind she'd seen in training films, but never from this side. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the metal table. Sergeant Reyes and Lieutenant Harper took their seats, files spread before them like evidence of a crime.
Naomi's heart pounded, but she kept her expression neutral, drawing on the discipline that had carried her through worse. "I never claimed to be something I'm not," she replied steadily. "I shared stories with vets who understand the cost of service." Reyes leaned in, his skepticism plain. "Witnesses say you bragged about SEAL operations, the raid on Abu Khalil in Syria, details only an insider would know. But women don't become SEALs. It's policy, biology, reality." The words landed like shrapnel, reopening old wounds of doubt and dismissal. Back in the cafe, as the officers had stormed in, the crowd's whispers had risen like a tide. "What's she done? Look at her! Thinks she's a hero?" Eyes filled with contempt, judging her before a word was spoken. Maria had looked heartbroken, mouthing, "What?" as Naomi was let out. It was the same old story, a black woman accused, her credibility questioned from the start. Naomi's mind flashed back to the battlefield, the memory vivid and unbidden. Syria, 2012. Dust choked the air as gunfire cracked around her. She was embedded with the team, posing as a local medic in a clinic overrun by militants. "Ghost, cover the east!" her teammate had yelled. She dropped to one knee, rifle steady, taking out two threats while patching a civilian child's wound. The girl had clung to her, wide-eyed and terrified. "You're safe now," Naomi had whispered, her hands steady despite the chaos. That mission had saved lives, but it had also etched the truth into her soul. She belonged there, gender and race be damned. Her father's voice echoed in the flashback. "Serve with honor, no matter what they throw at you." Snapping back to the present, Naomi met Harper's gaze. "Am I under arrest?" "Not yet," Reyes said, "but cooperate or this goes public. Your job at the center, your reputation, gone." The threat hung heavy, pulling her deeper into the adventure she hadn't chosen. This wasn't just about clearing her name. It felt like a deliberate probe, someone digging into secrets meant to stay buried. Why now? And why her? As the questions intensified, Naomi glanced at her sleeve, where the tattoo lay hidden, a silent testament to her truth. The interrogation room felt like a cage, its walls closing in as the minutes stretched into hours. Naomi sat rigid in her chair, her silence a fortress she'd built over years of secrecy. Harper and Reyes exchanged glances, their frustration mounting, but Naomi wouldn't budge. "Come on, Ms. Carter," Harper pressed, sliding a photo across the table. A grainy shot from the VA waiting room.
Hales says you detailed the Abu Khalil raid like you were there. Coordinates, tactics, the works. If it's true, prove it. If not, admit the lie." Naomi's mind churned with inner conflict, a storm of loyalty and fear. Telling the truth meant peeling back layers of classification that protected not just her, but her comrades, men and women still in the shadows, operating under the same veiled exceptions. What if her words rippled out, exposing them to enemies who'd exploit any crack? As a black woman who'd fought for every inch of respect, she knew the risks all too well. Silence had been her armor against discrimination, against the voices that said she didn't belong. Revealing now could endanger lives, unravel careers, and drag her back into a world she'd escaped. "I can't discuss that," she said finally, her voice a low murmur. "It's not that simple."
Reyes slammed his hand on the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "Not simple? You're looking at charges that could ruin you. Stolen valor isn't a joke. Vets like me earned our stripes the hard way." His words carried the bite of personal offense, a white man defending a system that had often sidelined people like her. Naomi felt the old anger stir, memories of training where she'd been singled out, forced to run extra miles while others watched and whispered. But she held her tongue, refusing the call that tugged at her to fight back. Tension thickened as NCIS agent David Chen joined them, his arrival announced by the door's sharp click. Chen, with his analytical gaze, flipped through her file. "Records show corpsman duty. Commendable, but no special ops, no SEAL quals. You're either a fraud or something's buried deep." He leaned in, doubt etching his features. "Hale's complaint checks out. Witnesses corroborate. Why risk it unless you're hiding more?" Naomi almost broke then, the pressure coiling like a spring. Her thoughts raced to her comrades, the team in Syria who'd come to trust her, the black brothers who'd shared her struggles against bias in the ranks. "You're one of us," one had said after a grueling mission, clapping her shoulder. But telling could betray that bond, invite scrutiny that might cost them everything. She clenched her fists under the table, fighting the urge to spill it all. The covert assignments, the lives saved, the tattoos, hidden meanings. "Get me a lawyer," she repeated, her resolve cracking just a fraction. Harper circled the room, her voice softening to a coax. "Naomi, we're not the enemy. If there's truth here, we can help. But stonewalling makes you look guilty." Chen nodded, adding, "Think about your center, the vets you help. This hits the news and it's over." The words pierced, evoking her father's legacy, the man who'd taught her to stand tall amid prejudice. Yet the call to adventure loomed, demanding she step forward. And she refused, clinging to silence for their sake. As the interrogation dragged on, a single tear escaped, tracing down her cheek. It came unbidden, born of recollection. Fallen teammates in Afghanistan, ambushed in the dead of night. She'd pulled 3 from the wreckage, their blood on her hands, but couldn't save them all. Black faces like her own, lost to a war that didn't always value them. The tear fell, a silent testament to the cost of her secrets.
In her quiet home in Virginia Beach, retired Admiral Elaine Johnson paused mid-sip of her afternoon tea, the radio news bulletin cutting through the calm like a siren. Breaking, a woman in Norfolk arrested for impersonating a Navy SEAL. Claims of stolen valor shake the local veteran community. Elaine froze, the cup trembling in her hand. Memories surged, a name, a face, a moment of unyielding bravery. Naomi Carter. It had to be her. The Admiral, a trailblazing African-American woman who'd shattered glass ceilings in the Navy, set down her cup with purpose. At 68, she'd retired 5 years ago, but some calls to duty never faded. She grabbed her phone, dialing old contacts. "Get me to the base, now." Back in the interrogation room, the air hung thick with Naomi's unspoken grief, her tears still fresh on her cheek. The door swung open abruptly, and in walked Admiral Elaine Johnson, her presence commanding the space like a flagship entering harbor.
Dressed in civilian attire, but carrying the aura of authority, she fixed her gaze on Naomi, eyes softening with recognition. "Stand down," she said to Harper and Reyes, her voice brooking no argument. "This woman is no fraud." Chen straightened, surprised. "Admiral Johnson, what brings you here?" "I've known Naomi Carter longer than most," Elaine replied, pulling up a chair beside her. "And I won't stand by while you question her honor." Turning to Naomi, she placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Child, I've got you. It's time to let a little light in." Naomi looked up, her eyes widening in astonishment. The Admiral, her mentor from those shadowed days, here, now. For the first time since the ordeal began, a glimmer of hope pierced the darkness. Elaine had been there from the start, advocating for the covert program that pulled Naomi in. As fellow black women in a male-dominated world, they'd shared the burdens of prejudice, dismissed promotions, sideline glances, the constant need to prove twice as much. "You remind me of myself at your age," Elaine had once said. Now that bond reignited, offering Naomi a lifeline. Elaine addressed the room. "Her records are sealed for good reason. Wartime exceptions, classified ops. But if you need verification, start with me."
As questions flew, Elaine's mind drifted to the flashback that had sealed her faith in Naomi. Syria, 2013. The raid on a terrorist-held clinic was going south, gunfire ripping through the night. Elaine, overseeing from a forward command post, watched via drone feed as chaos unfolded. Naomi, embedded as the team's medic, spotted a young Syrian girl trapped in the crossfire, maybe 8 years old, cowering behind rubble. Bullets whizzed by, but Naomi didn't hesitate. "Cover me," she radioed, dashing out under fire. She scooped the child up, shielding her with her body while returning suppressive shots with one hand. "I've got you, little one," Naomi murmured in broken Arabic, applying pressure to the girl's grazed arm even as explosions rocked nearby. Elaine had held her breath, witnessing pure courage. Later, in debrief, she'd pulled Naomi aside. "That wasn't just skill, that was heart. You've earned your place, no matter what the policy says." It was Elaine who'd pushed for Naomi's tattoo modifications, a subtle code for those in the know. Snapping back, Elaine met Chen's doubtful gaze. "I saw her in action, rescuing a child under fire, saving her team. She's the real deal." To Naomi, "You've hidden long enough. Let me help you stand tall again." Naomi felt the weight lift slightly, hope blooming like dawn after a long night. With Elaine's by her side, the refusal cracked, the adventure beckoned, and this time she wouldn't face it alone. With Elaine's steady presence anchoring her, Naomi drew a deep breath, the room's tension shifting from confrontation to fragile anticipation. The Admiral's words lingered. "Let me help you stand tall," a quiet push toward the edge she'd long avoided. Naomi nodded slowly, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached for her sleeve. "All right," she said, her voice gaining strength. "If proof is what you need, here it is." She rolled up the fabric deliberately, exposing her forearm to the harsh light. The tattoo emerged like a hidden map, an eagle gripping a trident and anchor, the classic seal insignia, but woven with personal alterations. A faint bone frog silhouette honored the fallen, its lines etched with somber precision. Coordinates from that fateful Afghanistan night marked the spot where she'd dragged survivors from hellfire. And beneath, discrete symbols, a caduceus twisted with a rifle for her dual role in healing and combat, told a story only those who'd lived it could decipher. The ink was faded, but indelible, a testament carved into her skin during a hushed ceremony years ago. The investigators froze, stunned into silence. Reyes blinked, leaning closer as if the design might vanish. That's authentic," he muttered, tracing the air above the symbols. Harper's eyes widened, her professional mask slipping. "The modifications, the bone frog, those chords. I've seen similar on verified operators." Chen, ever the skeptic, pulled out his phone, cross-referencing details against restricted databases. It matches elite unit markers, but altered. How? Elaine stepped in, her tone measured and authoritative. Because Naomi's service wasn't standard issue, it was necessity-driven, cleared at levels you don't touch without clearance. She glanced at Naomi, encouraging her to speak. Naomi met their gazes, the act of revealing, feeling like stepping off a cliff. This isn't just art, it's my record when the official ones couldn't be. The eagle's wings angle for the missions I ran. The date below ties to my first exception approval. I earned every line in blood and grit. Her voice steadied, drawing from the resolve that had seen her through covert insertions. But doubt lingered in the air, a loop of uncertainty. Was this masterful forgery or undeniable truth? Chen voiced it first. If this is real, why is it missing from your records? No trace of special ops, no seal quals, just courseman basics. The question hung, probing the heart of her hidden world. Naomi exhaled, committing now. Because admitting it officially would have sparked backlash, policy debates, threats to the program. We bent rules for results, infiltrating zones men couldn't reach, blending in as a black woman where suspicion ran high. My files were scrubbed for protection, mine and others. Riaz rubbed his chin, skepticism warring with awe. Exceptions like that, they're legends, not reality. Harper added, we'd need verification, calls up the chain. But Naomi felt the shift inside her. No more hiding. This threshold crossed meant embracing the fallout, defending her legacy against erasure. Make the calls, she said firmly. But know this, I served to honor my father, to break barriers others built. If proving it means facing the storm, so be it. As the room buzzed with new urgency, Elaine squeezed her shoulder. You're stepping forward, Naomi. That's how change begins. The uncertainty remained, truth or clever ruse, but Naomi had leaped, her quiet life yielding to the pull of revelation. The revelation of the tattoo hung in the air like smoke after a salvo, but it didn't end the scrutiny. It ignited a barrage of tests that probed Naomi's every claim. Harper paced, her notepad filling with rapid scribbles. Details, Ms. Carter. Walk us through a mission, any one that matches those symbols. Reyes chimed in, his doubt resurfacing. And explain how a corpsman ends up with operator ink. We've verified fakes before. This could be elaborate. Naomi leaned forward, her credibility on the line. Each question a gauntlet she had to navigate. Start with the caduceus, she said, pointing to the intertwined symbol. Afghanistan, 2011. We hit an insurgent stronghold disguised as an aid outpost. I posed as relief staff, gathered intel on weapons caches while treating locals. Her voice remained even, drawing from reservoirs of patience forged in adversity. But inside the inner tug-of-war persisted, sharing enough to prove herself without breaching the oaths that bound her to silence. As a black woman, accustomed to proving her worth, this felt eerily familiar. Endless interrogations mirroring the biases she'd battled in uniform.
Elaine interjected when needed, vouching for protocols, but the officers pressed on. Timelines don't add up, Chen noted, cross-checking databases, no deployment logs for special assignments. Naomi countered with sanitized facts. Those logs were compartmentalized, need to know only. The relentless Wally tested her limits, each probe chipping at her resolve, forcing her to relive moments she'd buried to protect her peace. Amid the onslaught, an ally began to emerge. Agent Chen, initially the epitome of skepticism, paused during a break, his sharp eyes narrowing not at Naomi, but at the file on Hale. This complaint, it's too precise, he murmured to Harper. Hale knew mission names, dates, stuff not in public domain. Feels off. Chen's suspicion grew, his background in counterintelligence kicking in. As an Asian American who'd climbed NCIS ranks despite his own brushes with prejudice, he recognized the undercurrents of doubt aimed at Naomi. What if this isn't stolen valor? What if it's a setup to draw her out? He started digging quietly, pulling Hale's records, financials, contacts, uncovering threads that didn't align with a simple vet's grudge. The enemy crystallized in Marcus Hale, the accuser whose ties raised red flags. Chen's preliminary checks revealed Hale's connections to a murky defense consulting firm, one with overseas links and a history of probing classified vets. He's been reaching out to operators from that era, asking about unofficial assets, code for exceptions like Naomi. Hale, a white former sergeant with a chip on his shoulder about evolving military policies, had positioned himself in veteran circles, his accusations a veil for something sinister. Naomi sensed it too, her instincts honed from missions where trust was currency. He wasn't offended, she told the group. He was hunting.
As questioning intensified, Naomi faced a direct confrontation. They brought in Hale via video link for identification, his face filling the screen, smug, unyielding. "She's a liar," he spat. "Women like her dilute the brotherhood." The slur hit hard, echoing the racism and sexism she'd endured, but Naomi held firm. "You asked about Abu Khalil specifically," she countered. "How'd you know those details unless you're the one fishing?" Hale smirked. "Prove you were there." The room tensed, credibility teetering. Then, in a calculated move, Naomi leaned into the camera. "Delta Echo November Oscar Papa Quebec." A battlefield password from the Syria op, whispered only among the team for verification in fog of war. The effect was electric. Hale's smirk faltered, his eyes widening in shock. The room went silent, the officers exchanging stunned glances. Chen froze mid-note, Reyes's mouth agape. Even Elaine raised an eyebrow, impressed. "That's classified protocol," Harper whispered. "How could she know that?" The mini-hook landed, shattering doubts and unveiling layers of deception. Naomi had passed a crucial test, but it exposed the enemy's hand. Hale's knowledge was illicit, his ties a threat. Chen nodded subtly to Naomi, their alliance forming. "This changes everything," he said. "We're not dealing with fraud, we're uncovering a breach." With allies rallying and enemies revealed, Naomi's journey deepened, the conflicts weaving into a tapestry of societal bias, military secrets, and personal vindication. The tests weren't over, but she'd proven her mettle, stepping closer to the core of the storm. The silence following Naomi's utterance of the battlefield password lingered like the calm before a storm, but it shattered the illusions in the room. Hale's video feed flickered with his momentary panic before he composed himself, muttering excuses and logging off abruptly. Chen disconnected the call, his face a mask of calculated intensity. "That wasn't a bluff," he said, turning to the group. "Hale knew that code, or he shouldn't have reacted like that. This isn't just a personal vendetta." Naomi sat back, the pieces clicking into place with chilling clarity. Hale wasn't merely accusing her out of misguided outrage. He was fishing for classified info, probing the edges of secrets meant to stay submerged. "At the VA," she recalled aloud, her voice steady but laced with realization. His questions weren't casual. He named ops, timelines, things he had no business knowing unless someone fed him lines. The slur he'd thrown, "women like her," now felt like a smokescreen, hiding a deeper agenda. As a black woman who'd navigated hidden prejudices, Naomi recognized the tactic. Distract with bias to extract the truth. Chen nodded, his alliance with Naomi solidifying. "Exactly. We've got preliminary traces. Hale's firm has contracts with foreign entities, the kind that trade in intel. This smells like espionage." NCIS's suspicion crystallized to the threat. Not a simple fraud case, but a potential breach targeting covert programs. Harper pulled up a screen, displaying Hale's communications, encrypted emails, offshore payments. He's contacted at least a dozen vets from similar eras, all with whispers of unofficial service. If he's mapping exceptions like yours, Naomi, it could expose active assets.
Reyes, still processing, added, "Why her? Why now?" Elaine leaned in,
her experience speaking. Because stories like Naomi's challenge the old guard. Policies evolved in 2016, but some resent the precedents set earlier. Leak it, and you stir chaos, or sell it to the highest bidder. The room buzzed with urgency, plans forming. Monitor Hale, trace his network, and use Naomi as bait if needed. But beneath the strategy, tension coiled tighter. Naomi felt the weight, her quiet life unraveling, pulling others into danger. As discussions deepened, Naomi's mind drifted to the flashback that anchored her fears, the night etched forever in her tattoo's coordinates. Afghanistan, 2011. The moonless sky hid the ambush until it was too late. Insurgents swarmed their position, a remote outpost masquerading as a medical camp. Naomi, mid-shift treating a local elder, heard the first explosions. "Incoming!" her team leader shouted. Bullets tore through the tents. Chaos erupted. She grabbed her rifle, heart pounding as teammates fell. 3 were pinned down in a ditch. Jamal, her wounded friend from the VA, Marcus, a skeptical white operator who'd grown to respect her, and Lena, another covert asset like her.
Snapping back, Naomi touched her forearm, the Inca talisman against the growing dread. "If Hale's digging, he's after more than me," she said. "There are others, women, minorities, who served off book. Expose us and you compromise everything." Chen agreed, outlining a sting. "We'll wire you, have you contact him. Pretend you're scared, willing to talk." But tension mounted, threats could escalate, isolation from her hidden past resurfacing. What if Hale's backers were watching? The cave loomed, dark and unforgiving, filled with echoes of betrayal and loss. Naomi steeled herself, knowing the approach meant confronting not just Hale, but the ghosts she'd long evaded. The air thickened with unspoken fears, the audience's pulse quickening as the true peril emerged. The plan coalesced in the dim glow of the conference room, shadows dancing on the walls as Chen outlined the sting with precise strokes on a whiteboard. "You'll reach out to Hale," he said to Naomi. "Pretend the interrogation broke you. Offer to confess everything, names, ops, the works, in exchange for his help burying the charges." Naomi nodded, her pulse quickening at the risk. This was the ordeal she dreaded, the plunge into the cave's depths where truths and lies collided. Elaine placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've faced worse. Remember who you are." With a wire concealed under her jacket, an NCIS backup shadowing her, Naomi made the call that night, her voice laced with feigned desperation. "Hale, it's Carter. You were right. I can't fight this. Meet me. I'll give you proof if you call off the dogs." Hale bit, his greed evident even over the line. "Abandoned warehouse on the docks, midnight. Come alone." Naomi arrived under a moonless sky, the decrepit building looming like a forgotten sentinel, its rusted doors creaking in the salty wind. Inside, dim bulbs flickered, casting elongated shadows across crates and debris. Hale waited in the center, flanked by 2 burly associates she hadn't anticipated. Hired muscle, their eyes cold and watchful. "You showed," he sneered, stepping forward. "Smart. Now the proof. Spill on the covert program, names of the women, mission logs, everything."
Naomi played her part, hands raised in mock surrender. "It started in 2010. Exceptions for infiltration. Me, Lena, others. Syria ops, Afghanistan ambushes. I can give you files, but you promise this ends." Her words were bait, drawing him closer, the wire capturing every syllable. Hale's eyes gleamed with triumph, but suspicion lingered. "Why the change of heart? And that tattoo, show me again. Prove it's not some parlor trick." She complied, rolling her sleeve under the harsh light, the symbols stark against her skin. "Satisfied?" But Hale's face twisted. "Not yet. You think I'm stupid? This is bigger than you. Clients want the full network exposed." He demanded more, specifics on teammates, clearance codes. Naomi fed him fragments, stalling as Chen's team positioned outside. Tension built, the air thick with unspoken menace. Then the climax erupted. Hale's patience snapped.
"You're stalling," he growled, drawing a concealed pistol with startling speed. The gun leveled at her chest, his finger twitching on the trigger. "Talk or I end this now." His associates closed in, one grabbing her arm. Naomi's training surged, years of covert drills flooding back. She twisted free, elbow slamming into the thug's jaw with a crack. "Not today," she muttered, dodging as Hale fired, the shot ricocheting off a crate. Adrenaline roared. She fought for her life, weaving through the shadows like the ghost they'd named her. A second assailant lunged, knife glinting. Naomi parried, knee to his gut, sending him sprawling. Hale advanced, gun steady. "You should have stayed hidden," he taunted, firing again, grazing her side, hot pain blooming. She staggered, but countered, disarming him with a swift kick to the wrist, the pistol skittering across the floor. They grappled, his strength overwhelming, hands around her throat. Vision blurring, she clawed at his eyes, buying seconds. "NCIS, now!" she gasped into the wire.
The doors burst open. NCIS agents stormed in, shouts echoing. "Freeze! Hands up!" Chen led the charge, tackling Hale as he reached for the gun. The associates surrendered, cuffed amid the chaos. Hale snarled as they hauled him away. "This isn't over. You exposed nothing." But Chen secured the scene, medics rushing to Naomi's wound. "You did it," he said, respect in his eyes. "Networks cracking." As adrenaline ebbed, Naomi's mind plunged into the flashback of the full Syria mission, the ordeal's emotional core revealing her skill and bravery. It was 2013, the raid on the terrorist clinic, a high-value target using civilians as shields. Naomi, embedded with SEAL Team 6, led the infiltration, her medical credentials the perfect cover. Dressed as a local nurse, she slipped in days prior, mapping layouts while tending patients. "Ghost is in position," she radioed, heart steady despite the risks. The team struck at dawn, breaching walls, suppressing guards. Naomi moved like lightning, neutralizing 2 sentries with silenced shots, her marksmanship flawless. Inside, chaos reigned. The target, Abu Khalil, barricaded with hostages, including the young girl she'd later rescue. Bullets flew, teammates fell wounded. Naomi patched one mid-firefight, tourniquet tight under suppressive cover. "Push forward," she urged, leading the charge. Khalil emerged, weapon raised. She fired true, dropping him clean. But reinforcements swarmed, an ambush within. Grenades exploded, she shielded the girl, taking shrapnel to her back. "Get them out," she ordered, fighting through pain, extracting the hostages while providing cover fire. Elaine's voice crackled over comms. "Ghost, evac now." Naomi carried the child to safety, collapsing at the LZ, her bravery turning the tide. In debrief, teammates saluted. "You saved us all," one said. It was the mission that solidified her place, proving capability transcended barriers.
Back in the warehouse, as medics bandaged her, Naomi touched her tattoo. The symbols, a map of that night. The ordeal had peaked, her fight echoing the past, but victory tasted bittersweet. Hale was caught, his network unraveling, yet the scars remained. This golden moment held viewers rapt, action fused with heart, a woman's unyielding spirit on full display. In the aftermath of the warehouse chaos, the night air filled with the wail of sirens as NCIS secured the scene, Naomi leaned against an ambulance, her side bandaged but her spirit unbroken. Hale was hauled away in cuffs, his defiant glare meeting hers one last time. "You think you've won?" he spat, but the fight had drained from him. Chen approached, clipboard in hand. His devices a gold mine, logs of contacts, payments from overseas shells. "We've exposed the spy network, a ring targeting vets like you, selling classified scraps to foreign buyers. Hale was the tip. Arrests are rolling in across states." Naomi exhaled, the weight of the ordeal lifting slightly. For the first time in days, vindication washed over her, a quiet triumph amid the flashing lights. Back at the base the next morning, in a secure briefing room, Naomi sat with Elaine and Chen, the air humming with resolution. "You've been cleared," Chen said, sliding a folder across the table. "No charges. Your service record, though sealed, notes the truth. NCIS owes you. Without your bait, we'd still be chasing shadows." His tone carried genuine respect, a far cry from the initial doubts. "As an ally forged in fire," he added, "you're a credit to the uniform, Naomi. What you did tonight, it saved more than lives. It preserved secrets that keep us safe."
Elaine stood, her eyes shining with pride. And from me, official validation. She presented a commendation letter, stamped with naval insignia, for extraordinary courage in uncovering a threat to national security. It's classified, of course, no parades, no headlines. But know this: you honored your father's legacy and paved paths for those after. Naomi accepted it, fingers tracing the seal, emotions swelling. The Admiral's words echoed their shared struggles, the barriers they'd both shattered as black women in the ranks. "You've proven again what I saw in Syria, heart and skill that no policy can deny." For Naomi, this reward was profound, not just clearance, but acknowledgement from those who understood the cost. Yet her story remained classified, a veil of secrecy that tempered the victory. The public would never know the full tale, the covert exceptions, the lives saved in shadows. Naomi's civilian life could resume, but with scars and safeguards. "We'll monitor for fallout," Chen assured. "Your hidden service stays buried, no leaks on our watch." The audience lingered in that limbo, waiting for closure, sensing unfinished threads. Hale's network was dismantled, but whispers of deeper motives lingered, political resentments, old grudges against change. As Naomi left the base, driving back to Norfolk under a dawning sky, a sense of peace settled, mingled with unease. The reward was hers, validation, justice, but the journey felt incomplete. She touched her tattoo, symbols of survival and sacrifice. Elaine's final words rang, "This is your elixir, child. Carry it forward." But there was another secret, lurking in the edges, a network of her own, the other women who'd served in silence, now stirred by the ripples of this exposure. What if they were next? The loop tightened, pulling toward new horizons.
Naomi drove through the familiar streets of Norfolk, the morning sun casting long shadows that seemed to follow her like unwelcome companions. The base faded in her rearview mirror, along with the commendation letter tucked in her glove compartment, a classified token of her victory. Hale was behind bars, his network crumbling under NCIS scrutiny, but the road back to her ordinary world felt fraught with hidden potholes. She pulled up to the Veterans Center, the building's weathered sign a beacon of normalcy. Inside, her colleagues greeted her with concerned hugs. "We heard rumors. Some arrest?" one asked, eyes wide. Naomi forced a smile. "Misunderstanding, all cleared up, back to work." She dove into her survival skills class, teaching knots and fire starting to a group of older vets, many with stories from Vietnam or Desert Storm. Their nods and shared glances reminded her why she stayed, to help heal the invisible wounds, just as she had healed her own. But shadowy remained, subtle at first. As she wrapped up the session, her phone buzzed with an anonymous text. "Nice tattoo. Secrets don't stay buried." She froze, deleting it quickly, but the chill lingered. Was it Hale's remnants? Or someone else stirred by the ripples? At the cafe that afternoon, Maria poured her usual black coffee. "You okay? Look like you've seen a ghost." Naomi chuckled weakly. "Just tired." She claimed her corner table, scanning the room out of habit, but now it felt necessary. Eyes seemed to linger, a man in the corner with a newspaper glancing her way too often. Paranoia or real? The unease from the warehouse wound throbbed, a reminder that exposure came with costs. That evening at home, Naomi sifted through mail, finding an unmarked envelope slipped under her door. Inside, a note, "We know what you did in Syria. The others will pay too." Her heart raced. This hinted at new dangers, tentacles of the spy ring perhaps reaching further, or internal foes resentful of the precedent she'd set. She called Chen immediately. "More threats," she said, voice low, anonymous but specific. He assured her, "We're on it. Surveillance bumped up. Stay vigilant." Elaine followed up, her mentor's wisdom a balm. "The road back is never straight, child. You've rattled cages, expect pushback. But remember your father's words. Serve with honor, no retreat."
Naomi reflected as she paced her living room, the tattoo itching under her sleeve. The reward had validated her, but returning meant confronting the isolation anew. Her community offered solace, the vets who shared laughs over coffee, the barista who knew her order, but the shadows tainted it. Someone was watching her. She felt it in the prickling at her neck during walks, the unfamiliar car parked down the street. Was it foreign agents Hale had sold to, or military hardliners opposed to women in ops? The another secret from her thoughts loomed larger, the network of hidden women, like Lena from the ambush, scattered and silent. If Hale's probing had uncovered them, dangers multiplied. She visited Jamal at the VA the next day, his arm prosthetic gleaming as he gripped her hand. "Heard you had trouble. You good?" Naomi nodded but shared glimpses. "It's not over, but I'm standing." Their talk turned to old times, the bonds that sustained. Yet leaving, she spotted the same man from the cafe, lingering by his car, eyes tracking her. Coincidence? No. The mini-hook tightened. This wasn't over. As Naomi drove home, the sun dipping low, a new resolve formed. The road back demanded she prepare for what lurked ahead, shadows hinting at battles yet to come. The threats lingered like fog over Norfolk's harbor, but Naomi refused to let them paralyze her. The anonymous notes and watchful eyes only fueled her determination, turning the road back into a path of proactive vigilance. Chen's updates came sporadically, network remnants scattering, but were closing in. Elaine advised caution, but also action. "Don't just defend, connect. There are others out there like you." Those words planted a seed, and when an encrypted email arrived from an unknown sender, "We share your shadows. Meet us?" Naomi knew it was the twist she'd sensed coming. Coordinates led to a discreet community hall in Virginia Beach, under the guise of a veteran support group. She arrived wary, scanning for traps, but the door opened to a room of women whose eyes held the same guarded sharpness she recognized in her mirror.
They were 8 of them, diverse as the missions they'd served. Black, Latina, Asian, white, ages spanning from her 35 to late 50s. They sat in a circle of folding chairs, coffee steaming in styrofoam cups, the air thick with unspoken histories. Lena was there, her old teammate from the Afghanistan ambush, her hair grayer but her grip firm as they embraced. "Ghost," Lena whispered. "Heard about your dust-up. Pulled you into the light, huh?" The twist unfolded. These were the hidden ones, women who'd served in covert missions under similar exceptions, temporary assignments to special ops, buried records, unacknowledged sacrifices. "We found each other piecemeal," a Latina woman named Sophia explained, her voice steady. "VA whispers, coded online forums. Hale's probing rattled us all." The emotional scene began tentatively, voices cracking the silence like ice thawing in spring. Sophia shared first. Iraq, 2008. Infiltrated as a translator, took down a cell from inside. But back home, no medal, no story. My family thinks I was just admin. Tears welled as she described the isolation, the nights questioning if it mattered, the marriages strained by secrets she couldn't share. "You carry it alone, like a weight that bends you." An Asian veteran, Kim, nodded, her hands trembling. Afghanistan, 2012. Drone intel specialist but embedded for ground truth. Lost a partner to an IED. Couldn't even attend the funeral openly. The pain. It's like being erased. Her voice broke, and the group leaned in, a collective exhale of empathy. Naomi listened, her own walls crumbling. When her turn came, she rolled up her sleeve, the tattoo drawing gasps of recognition. "Syria, the ambush, you know the drill. Prove myself daily against the biases, the doubts, but hiding, it ate at me,
made me question my worth. The sharing deepened, pain pouring out, the sexism in teams that saw them as liabilities, the racism that doubled the scrutiny for women of color, the isolation of classified lives, no reunions, no therapy without red tape. A black woman named Aisha spoke of losing promotions post-service, her covert feats dismissed as support roles. We saved lives, changed outcomes, but history forgets us. The loneliness, it's a different war. Sobs echoed, hands clasped in solidarity, the room a sanctuary for the unspoken.
As stories intertwined, Naomi realized the profound truth. She wasn't just vindicating herself, but an entire forgotten generation of women. These weren't isolated cases, they were a legacy of unsung warriors, pioneers who bent policies in wartime's forge, paving ways for the official integrations that followed. Her ordeal with Hale hadn't been personal, it had cracked open a vault, exposing the need for recognition. "We're not alone," Naomi said, voice thick with emotion. "What we've done matters. Vindicating one vindicates us all." The group nodded, a resurrection of spirit rising from shared ashes. Lena squeezed her hand. "You started this fire, Ghost. Now we fan it." Plans formed. Secure channels to document their stories, push for classified acknowledgments, support each other through the shadows. Naomi left transformed, the twist reshaping her purpose. The pain of isolation gave way to collective strength, a resurrection not just of her resolve, but of a generation's voice. The battles ahead felt shared, the forgotten stepping toward light. In the weeks following that first gathering, the group of hidden veterans grew stronger, their meetings a blend of strategy and solace. Naomi found herself at the center, her ordeal with Hale transformed from personal trial to collective catalyst. They convened in secure spots, back rooms of community centers, quiet parks under twilight, sharing resources, drafting petitions for classified acknowledgments, and building a network of support. The elixir Naomi carried back wasn't a medal or a headline, it was the truth's quiet power, an antidote to years of erasure. Her journey, from the cafe arrest to the warehouse fight, had forged it, proving that one woman's stand could uplift many.
One crisp autumn evening, in a hall adorned with faded military banners, Naomi stood before the expanded group, now 24 strong. Women from across eras and backgrounds filled the chairs, their faces etched with the same resilient lines. Lena flanked her, Sophia and Kim nearby, a circle of sisters in arms. Naomi cleared her throat, the room falling silent. "Sisters," she began, her voice resonant with the weight of their shared path. "We've spent too long in the shadows, carrying our service like a burden instead of a badge. I stood accused, fought to prove what we all know. Our contributions weren't footnotes, they were the turning points. We infiltrated where others couldn't, healed under fire, led when doubt screamed loudest. But no more hiding, we don't need to hide anymore. The next generation deserves to know the truth, that women like us from every walk broke barriers not with fanfare, but with grit and grace." The words hung, stirring nods and murmurs. Naomi continued, weaving the theme of justice, equality, and recognition for veterans into her elixir. Justice isn't just clearing a name, it's acknowledging the full story. We faced double battles, against enemies abroad and prejudices at home. Racism that questioned our competence, sexism that barred our paths. Yet we prevailed, saving lives, securing victories. Equality means honoring that, not burying it in classified files. And recognition? It's our due, for the fathers we lost, the comrades we mourned, the children we inspire. My dad taught me to serve without apology. Now, we pass that on. Let's push for those sealed commendations, share our tales in safe spaces, ensure no veteran feels forgotten again. The group responded with applause, stories flowing anew. Aisha spoke of petitioning old commanders. Kim shared plans for a private memorial. Naomi listened, realizing her resurrection had birthed this movement. The elixir flowed through them. justice in their unified voice, equality in their diverse strength, recognition in their refusal to fade. Reflections on her journey surfaced. The father's letter that ignited her enlistment, the discrimination that tempered her steel, the ambush and Syria missions that defined her valor. Hale's threat had been a forge, hammering her isolation into alliance. As the meeting wrapped, they stepped outside into the cooling air. An American flag waved gently from a nearby pole, its stars and stripes catching the last rays of sunset, a symbol of the nation they'd served in silence. Naomi paused, watching it flutter, tears welling in her eyes, not from sorrow, but from a profound pride. The elixir had returned her whole, scars and all, shining with the light of purpose. The group dispersed with hugs and promises, but Naomi lingered, the flag's motion a reminder that some battles end in quiet victories. What if this story were real? What would it mean to you?